Mother Nature, our great goddess, is so amazing. She's always teaching me something about powerful new beginnings because she is a creatrix. And I find there's no better time to harness that powerful energy than on the magical new moon. So today I thought I'd head out onto the farm and talk to you about some of these incredible lessons from nature that the farm has been speaking to me about, because the farm is always teaching me. In and amongst those lessons, I've identified 6 focus areas for new moon spell casting. Focus is super important. Where focus goes, energy flows. And then 6 ideas for spell casting on the new moon themselves, 6 different spell ideas. This, of course, is not an exhaustive list, so if you have ideas for new moon spell casting, please leave them down below and share them with everybody. Welcome, magical people. I'm Hexa. This is Natural Witchery, if you don't know me. I'm a druid living out in Oregon on an organic farm, and I practice folk witchcraft. Let me know down below if you have a style of witchcraft that you subscribe to.
What the heck was she thinking?
The seasons are changing out here on the farm, and one of the first things that happens this time of year is the wind starts to blow so much more. And that brings me to this thought about the winds of change. When thinking about creating a spell for the new moon, it's good to check in on where the winds of change are blowing in your life. Ask yourself, do I feel a breeze blowing me someplace? Am I being carried somewhere? What's on that wind and what does it portend? I find that working with my natural rhythms and where the universe is trying to guide me to makes my spells that much more powerful. So I love checking in with the winds of change. And in this way, your focus can be about where the winds of change are taking you, using that, or your focus can actually be a spell asking, hey, show me the direction that I need to go. Sometimes we need to grow a direction within us and we don't actually have something that we're trying to accomplish other than receiving. And I think we forget as magical practitioners to really capitalize on that divine feminine energy of reception. Of course, we're probably most familiar with planting seeds on the new moon, and this time of year on the farm, there are seeds everywhere. I'm busy collecting seeds for next year. These are Aquiligua or columbine. As a quick aside, I'm really hoping to share these seeds with those of you watching that are in the US, and I have a clever way to do that, so be watching in the future if you want to receive some of these seeds in the mail. Most of the time when I think about the new moon, I'm thinking about what I want to sow, like the seeds I want to sow. Here's some questions for you to think about to decipher whether or not you're ready to sow seed on this new moon. Is that seed ready? So seeds that are harvested immature, they don't sprout, they don't work. So sometimes we have a seed and we're actually still growing that within us, and maybe this isn't the moon to plant that seed on. So ask yourself, is this idea ripe? Is it really ready to be planted? Another question to ask yourself is this seed mine to sow? This sounds like a really weird one, but here's an example. Years ago when my kids were little, I was a single mother and I was struggling so hard to make ends meet. And I thought if I could just find some kind of business other than the art business that I had to kind of run on the side, I could make it. And a friend of a friend of a friend had this really cool business that she had worked up. And I thought, I could do that. But it wasn't my seed. And I didn't have the fire for it. I didn't have the love. I hadn't grown it. So I made an attempt at it and it failed. It just wasn't my vision. Sometimes we're having like a 7 of Cups moment where we're wanting something within ourselves, and instead of looking within and really discovering what it is that we're crying out for, we look outside of ourselves for something else and we think that will be the be all end all, and we decide that's the thing that I want when it really isn't. So ask yourself, is this seed mine to plant? I'm sure you've heard the saying, there's a time to sow and a time to gather, and this brings me to focal point number 2. Is it your time to sow seed or your time to gather seed? It may seem almost counterintuitive on a new moon, but maybe what you want to call in is your seed And your seed is what you'll be planting on a future moon or future in your life. Or is it a time to sow? If it's a time to sow seed, then getting really clear on that focus, what it is you're sowing and that seed that you're planting, really making sure that seed is mature, you've grown the magic inside of you, and you're ready to go on that magical new moon. We actually call this second spring on the farm. And that's because things start to cool down and the temperatures create an environment that is similar to spring, kind of in reverse. I know that right now is the time to plant. Know what you're ready to plant and whether or not you can maintain that spell. I talked about this in my What the Trees Taught Me About Magic, 5 tips for big spells. Recognizing what I'm capable of actually maintaining at this point in my life is really key to sowing a successful new moon spell. Sometimes I just need to slow down and remind myself that maybe this new moon, my focus should be on building an environment to plant that seed next go around. So focal point number 3, are we on 3, I think, is asking the goddess to help you build an environment to plant that seed in the future. The nights are getting cold, the temperatures are shifting, and that means the leaves are about to fall off of the trees. So the next lesson that the goddess has really been speaking to me about is just the power of that cycle. Trees release their leaves so that they don't have to maintain them through the cold months of the winter. Those leaves in turn fall to the ground, compost, and become the leaf matter, the compost that will feed them in the coming year. The leaves that we see on the tree that are green all the time, that is from chlorophyll. The actual color of the leaf is the color that we see in fall. Every once in a while, the universe opens my eyes and suddenly I see things like I don't normally see them. And this is an incredible gift to capitalize on for a new moon working. Are you in a time where you need to look at things differently? Are you in a time where you need to shed things rather than add things to your life? Is this a time of maintenance and transformation rather than a time of building? Maybe your new moon focus needs to again be on the divine feminine side, from a receptive point of how can I nourish myself during this time? Great goddess, guide me to the things that I need right now to nourish my mind, my body, my spirit, or maybe it's your emotional health. Last little lesson here before I get into my spells is that trees are symbiotic. They live in harmony with the earth and they are not separate. So that leaf fodder that falls, it just doesn't serve them. It serves the entire environment. That compost is for the forest floor, for other plants, for bugs, for the animals that eat those bugs. I mean, it is a cycle, it is a circle of life, and there is a connection there. And so maybe your moon spell is not for you, but for someone else. That new moon spell could be something for the collective. Maybe you're sending peace and love and calm during a time when our collective greatly needs it. We always need that, right? Maybe you're sending healing to a loved one who is sick. If you are sending something to someone else, I believe it should be for a benevolent nature, although I'm not against baneful magic in certain circumstances. Again though, let's remember to use our magic for the collective and not just for ourselves. And now onto the spells, but before I do, I just want to let you know that you can sign up for my newsletter down below in the description box. There's a link, and I do send out a weekly newsletter with divination tricks and witchy tips in it. And just so you know, my ancestral divination course is opening up. So if you've been wanting to work with your ancestors and you've been wanting to create that altar and get into the groove with connecting through divination, this course may be it for you, and it's down there as well. I've got 2 more involved spells for you today and then 4 very simple ones. There's got to be something here that you can either use just as is or riff off of. Again, please share things that you like to do with the new moon down below. The first thing I want to start out by saying is that I perceive a difference between the astrological new moon. That for me is the dark moon. That's when there's no moon in the sky at all, and that is a time for really reflection and nourishing and healing myself. The magical new moon is that first sliver, that first couple days of that sliver of the moon, and that's when I consider the most potent for working new moon magic. The first spell I have for you is actually the most simple, and it's profound. Just take a walk out under that magical new moon and give your heart to Grandmother Moon, your chosen deity, or to yourself if you are atheist. Speak knowing that you have been heard.
Close out your petition by giving thanks. Revisit the moon throughout the month and listen for guidance. Spell number 2 is an offering spell. Once you're very clear about what your petition is, take a nature walk and gather natural items to leave an offering. Think carefully about your intent and pick up the items that resonate with that. Since you'll be leaving this offering to compost in the woods, everything should be biodegradable. If you wish to make an offering of a crystal or a stone, just remember that I feel offerings once given are never taken back, so plan on leaving it there. If you're working with the Fae, you may want to leave some honey or some cream for them, and I think it's okay to regather those vessels. Leave your offering in the woods or in your yard where it won't be disturbed. Arrange it with love and care and head on your way. So it is done. Spell 3, write out your petition and bury it. You can add items to the hole as long as they're biodegradable, like herbs that are magically significant to you or crystals. You can even do this in a potted plant and then tend that plant and watch your intention grow. Getting a little bit more involved here, spell 4 is a tarot or oracle card spell. Pick a card that represents your starting point and a card for where you want to get to. I talk about this technique in my Unlocking the Cards course that I have, and that's going to be coming up here pretty quick, so sign up for that newsletter. On the day of the magical new moon, gaze at your starting point and get really clear on it. Then place it face down on your altar. This is symbolically planting your now self. Leave the place that you want to get to card face up on your altar throughout the month. Fan out the remaining cards on your altar, and throughout the month as you feel led, draw a card as you ask for guidance on what to do next. Once the full moon arrives, start asking, what is it that I need to let go of in order to allow this to manifest? Remember that if you draw a card asking for advice on how to proceed in life, honor yourself and the deity that you're working with by doing your best to follow that advice. Spell 5, write a chant or rhyme. This is a favorite for me. Simply write your chant or rhyme and then chant it throughout the month. Spend a small amount of time in meditation after chanting, listening for guidance from your guides or your inner self. Spell 6, and my favorite most used, is a good old-fashioned candle spell. Write out your petition on a piece of paper the day of the magical new moon. Choose a candle. Don't get too picky. That's why I like to have white around for just about everything. Light your candle under the magical new moon and recite your petition. I do this as I feel led throughout the month, allowing the candle to burn all the way down to the end. As always, be on the lookout for messages on what you're supposed to be doing to make this happen. How are you going to partner with your magic? Expect there to be synchronicities, good fortune, signs, omens, and good old-fashioned knowing. I really enjoy working with new moon energy. How about you? If you made it through all 13 minutes of this video, then do me a favor and leave moon emojis in the comments down below. And while you're at it, share with me something that you like about working with the new moon. Thanks for being here, magical people. Merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again.